What if the one you love is not out there, waiting to be found, but already yours in a reality unseen, waiting for you to claim them through the simple act of assuming they are? To attract your specific person, to manifest love fast, to feel the reality of your wish fulfilled, you must first understand that you are not calling something to you, but awakening to what already exists. The law of assumption love teaches that you are the operant power. The moment you assume yourself to be the one already loved, already chosen, already cherished, the outer world begins to bend itself to match your inner conviction. Your specific person is not separate from you. They are an extension of your consciousness, moving in perfect accord with your dominant feeling. Every thought you have about them is a seed planted in the soil of the subconscious. Plant only those seeds you wish to see blossom, for the harvest is inevitable. Do not plead, chase, or wait. Manifest your SP by closing the gap between desire and fulfillment in your imagination. See them look into your eyes with devotion. Hear their voice speaking the words you long to hear. Feel their touch, their presence as real. For imagination is not a shadow of reality. It is the womb from which reality is born. And when the mind tries to contradict you, when circumstances show the opposite, remain unmoved. Hold to your vision with the quiet confidence of one who knows that law of attraction's specific person is simply the natural law of consciousness. Let your nights be filled with visualization for love. Before sleep, feel the warmth of their hand in yours. Let this be the final image impressed upon the mind, for the mind in sleep is the gateway to the subconscious. Do not think of them as a missing piece. Think of them as already part of your life. In doing so, you activate the manifest specific person instantly reality, the one where you are already united. This is the subconscious mind love technique. To feel what you would feel if the desire were already fulfilled, and to persist until the feeling crystallizes into fact. To understand attraction in its highest truth, you must see it not as a pulling force, but as an awakening. Attraction, as the world teaches it, is a chase, an endless attempt to pull something from the outside into your possession. But in the deeper law of life, attraction is not about pursuit. It is about becoming aware of what already exists for you in the unseen. What you call your specific person is not somewhere beyond your reach. They are already bound to you in consciousness. You do not need to bring them closer. You need only awaken to the fact that you already possess them in a dimension beyond the senses. Every desire you have is proof that somewhere, in the eternal now, its fulfillment already exists. Your longing is the echo of what is already real in another state of being. To desire a relationship with your specific person means that, in the fabric of consciousness, such a union already is. You are not asking life to create it for you. Life has already done so. You are simply learning to step into that state and make it visible. Consider the ocean. When you drop a stone into it, the ripples spread outward. The moment you feel the love, the connection, the union with your specific person in your imagination, the ripples begin in the unseen realm of your subconscious. They travel outward until they eventually touch the shore of your physical life. What most people call waiting is simply the time it takes for the ripples to reach visibility. But here is the mystery. In the higher order of reality, the ripples have already touched every shore. The scene is already complete. It is your awareness that must travel, not the event. This is why the work is never about forcing the other to change, convincing them to notice you, or manipulating circumstances. The work is to accept that you are already in possession of what you seek. The moment you become aware of that truth, your thoughts, feelings, and actions automatically align with it. You find yourself speaking as one who is already loved, thinking as one who is already chosen, moving through the world as one who has nothing to fear or chase. This is the essence of awakening to what already exists. It is to adopt the posture of the fulfilled. When you hold a desire as something out there, you push it away. The very language of I want carries within it the vibration of lack, and lack perpetuates itself. But when you shift your inner dialogue to I am, you stand in the place of completion. You no longer look to the outer world for confirmation, because the inner world is already enough. It is this quiet certainty that draws the invisible into the visible, without struggle or resistance. Think of a radio. The music you wish to hear is not created when you tune into it. It was always being broadcast. It existed before you aligned the dial to its frequency. In the same way, the love you desire is already being broadcast on the frequency of your fulfilled self. The moment you tune to it, through feeling, imagination, and assumption, you begin to hear it, see it, live it. Nothing new is created. You simply enter the reality where it was always present. You may look around and see no sign of this union. They may be distant, unavailable, or even in the arms of another. But appearances are the final and weakest expression of reality. The unseen is the cause, the seen is the effect. When you remain faithful to the inner knowing that you already share the bond you desire, the outer will rearrange itself to match. It has no choice. Life is a mirror, and it reflects the image you hold of yourself in relation to your desire. This is why those who truly understand attraction spend little time on effort and much time on awareness. They do not chase, they dwell in the end. They rise each morning with the quiet joy of one who already lives in their desired reality. They speak of their love as a present fact, not a future hope. They imagine conversations, touches, and shared moments as if they were remembering them, not inventing them. This subtle shift from future tense to present fact is the awakening. Once this awakening occurs, the energy between you and your specific person changes effortlessly. The invisible thread that binds all things responds to your new state, pulling events, encounters, and conversations into harmony with your assumption. The two of you move together, drawn not by force but by the inevitability of what already is. What the world calls attraction is simply the recognition of self in another. And when you claim that recognition within yourself first, the other has no choice but to meet you there. Your specific person is not a stranger moving independently through the corridors of life, untouched by your inner world. They are woven into the same fabric of consciousness that you are, inseparable from the thoughts, images, and assumptions you hold. To see them as apart from you is to step into the illusion that keeps desire at a distance. But to understand that they are an extension of your consciousness is to claim the truth that every moment you think of them, you are shaping them. Every interaction you imagine, every word you silently attribute to them, every scene you replay in your mind is a thread being woven into the tapestry of your shared reality. The subconscious does not differentiate between the imagined and the seen. It accepts the image as fact, and the world outside bends itself to match that image. This is the silent law under which all relationships are born, sustained, or transformed. Your dominant feelings are the blueprint. If you dwell in thoughts of absence, rejection, or fear of losing them, those feelings sculpt the version of them you will encounter. They will seem distant, unavailable, or inattentive because you have already painted them in those colors in your mind. But when you hold them in your heart as loving, committed, and entirely yours, you breathe life into that version of them, and the outer world has no choice but to deliver that reflection. This is not about controlling their will. It is about aligning with the truth that in consciousness, there is only one mind expressing itself in countless forms. The version of them that loves you exists now, just as the version of you that is fully loved exists now. You cannot meet them in reality until you meet them within yourself. This is why your inner conversations are so powerful. They are not idle fantasies. They are rehearsals for the reality that is to come. When you speak to them in your mind, do not plead or persuade. Speak from the identity of the one who already has what they desire. Hear their voice telling you how much they appreciate you, how much they cherish you, how inevitable your union feels to them. Let those inner exchanges be so natural that they feel like memories rather than wishes. The mind will accept them as part of your lived experience, and the bridge of incidents leading to their fulfillment will quietly form. Your specific person is not bound by the past you shared, nor are they chained to the present you observe. They are as fluid in possibility as you are. This is why those who have been apart for years can find themselves suddenly drawn back together, and why relationships that once seemed over can be renewed with greater depth and devotion. The moment you alter the image you hold of them, you alter the way they appear in your life. But this alteration must be rooted in feeling. To simply think, they love me, without embodying the warmth, safety, and joy of that love is to recite empty words. You must feel their presence so vividly that the absence you once noticed dissolves entirely. This is not self-deception, it is self-selection. You are selecting the version of them you wish to encounter. And by holding that selection steady, you invite them into it. It is easy to fall into the trap of monitoring the outer world for signs. You may look for changes in their behavior, messages from them, or sudden appearances. While signs may come, they are not your source of certainty. Your certainty must come from the inner bond you have already forged. The outer is merely the delayed reflection of the inner. When you truly know that they are yours in consciousness, the outer signs are no longer needed to convince you. Your task is not to win them over. Your task is to become the self to whom they are already devoted. This is why cultivating a sense of worthiness, security, and ease within yourself is essential. You cannot pour doubt and insecurity into the image of your specific person and expect devotion to bloom. Love is mirrored back to the one who gives it first to themselves. When you hold yourself as precious, you automatically project that value onto the version of them you engage with in imagination, and they will meet you there. The bond you seek is already alive. The only work is to consistently nourish the image of them as loving, attentive, and committed, until this becomes the only version you recognize. When you do, they will have no choice but to rise to that image, for consciousness is the unseen stage upon which all relationships are performed. The role you assign them inwardly will be the role they play outwardly, whether they are aware of it or not. And when you finally stand before them, you will realize that they were never truly separate from you at all. They were simply waiting for you to recognize them in the form you desired. To live from the end is to stand in the place where your desire is already fulfilled, and to allow every thought, feeling, and action to flow from that position. It is not about wishing for a future event or hoping for a change that will come someday. It is the deliberate assumption that the change has already taken place and that you are now living in the result. When it comes to your specific person, this means you no longer see them as someone you are trying to attract, but as someone who is already an inseparable part of your life. This is not an exercise in pretending or acting as if in a shallow way. It is a deep inner conviction that what you seek is already yours in the unseen. The imagination becomes your dwelling place, and in it, you no longer rehearse longing or absence. You rehearse possession, connection, and shared joy. You speak to yourself as one who is in the relationship, not one who is waiting for it. You carry yourself as one who is chosen, not one who is hoping to be chosen. The difference between wishing and living from the end is subtle but powerful. Wishing looks forward. Living from the end looks outward from the place where the wish is complete. In the first case, you are standing outside the experience, looking toward it. In the second, you are standing inside it, looking back at the journey. It is this shift that transforms the subconscious, because the mind accepts what you persistently feel as real, and will bring your outer life into agreement with that inner state. To live from the end with your specific person, you must know how it feels to be loved by them. Not as a future event, not as a possibility, but as your present reality. You close your eyes and see their smile directed at you. You hear the sound of their laughter mingling with yours. You feel the texture of a life already shared, the unspoken ease of being in their presence. This becomes the dominant experience in your mind. The outer world may still reflect a different picture for a time, but you no longer take your cues from it. In this way, the end you live from becomes your truth, and truth has a way of pushing aside the shadows of doubt and delay. The one who lives from the end is unmoved by the temporary scene. They do not need proof because they already hold the proof within themselves. And it is this unwavering certainty that eventually shapes the outer world to match the inner vision. When you persist in the end, you eliminate the very vibration of waiting. Waiting always implies that something is missing now, and what is missing now will be missing tomorrow, for the outer is only the echo of the inner. But if you remove the sense of waiting and replace it with the certainty of having, the outer must reflect that having. This is why living from the end is the most direct path to manifestation. It bypasses the struggle of trying to make something happen and instead assumes it already has. This requires discipline, for the senses will tempt you to abandon your end. You may not see their name appear on your phone. You may notice their absence in your day. But living from the end means you refuse to be governed by these appearances. You know they are temporary, and you hold to the reality you have chosen. You do not react to the outer scene as final, for you know it is only a reflection of a former state of mind, one that no longer belongs to you. Some imagine this practice as though they were an actor stepping into a role, but it is more than performance. An actor may step out of character when the scene ends, but you must remain in the character of the fulfilled self until it becomes who you are. In time, it will not feel like acting at all. It will feel like truth. And when truth settles into the subconscious, the external world cannot help but conform. Your specific person in this reality is already with you. You walk beside them in thought. You share your days in imagination. You speak to them inwardly with the ease of familiarity. And because the mind knows no separation between the imagined and the actual, the bond you nurture within becomes the bond you see without. This is not magic, it is the natural movement of consciousness toward its dominant image. To live from the end is to refuse the posture of the seeker and embrace the posture of the possessor. The seeker reaches, but the possessor rests. The seeker asks, but the possessor thanks. The seeker looks forward, but the possessor looks back with gratitude. This is the posture that transforms longing into reality. And when you make it your home, you find that the person you once desired is now simply part of the life you know as yours. To ignore appearances and persist in the assumption regardless of circumstances is to stand in the only place where true creation occurs, within. The outer world is not a cause, it is an effect. It is the shadow cast by the light of your inner state, and a shadow has no life of its own. Yet so many allow themselves to be ruled by the shadow, measuring the truth of their desire by what the senses reveal. They see a lack of contact, a cold response, or the presence of another person, and they take this as evidence that their desire is impossible. In doing so, they abandon the very state that would bring it to life. The moment you let the outer scene dictate your inner conviction, you return to the place of wanting instead of having. But if you will hold to your assumption that you are already united with your specific person in love and devotion, then no temporary scene can overturn it. This is not stubbornness for its own sake. It is loyalty to the truth you have chosen. Every great change in life begins in the unseen, and the unseen is not bound by the conditions that the senses insist upon. Circumstances are like photographs. They capture the past state of consciousness, not the present one. When you look at a photograph, you know it is a moment gone by, not the living reality before you. In the same way, when you see an outer condition that contradicts your desire, you must remember it is simply a snapshot of your former beliefs. If you will persist in your new state, the photograph will change to reflect it. But if you react in fear or doubt, you re-impress the very condition you wish to dissolve. This is why persistence is not merely repeating affirmations or holding a thought for a few minutes. It is living in the awareness that your inner world is the only reality and refusing to be moved from it. When you hear that your specific person is distant or uninterested, you smile inwardly, knowing that this is only the echo of an old assumption. You do not chase, argue, or try to correct them outwardly. Instead, you return inward, seeing them as loving, attentive, and fully yours. The outer world will follow when it must, for it cannot resist the pull of a sustained inner image. Those who master this principle become unmoved by delays or contrary evidence. They walk through the days as though the union they desire is already theirs, because in the realm that matters most, it is. They understand that the senses are easily deceived, and that the only thing that matters is the state they occupy. The longer you hold to your chosen state, without wavering, the faster the outer must rearrange itself to match it. There will be moments when the outer world will try to seduce you into believing that nothing is happening. Days may pass with no visible sign. Weeks may bring interactions that seem the opposite of your desire. But these are not signs of failure. They are simply the last movements of the old state dissolving. If you remain faithful, the new state will emerge without effort, and often in ways you could never have planned. Think of a seed planted in the soil. Once buried, you cannot see it. The ground looks unchanged. Yet beneath the surface, life is stirring. If you were to dig it up every day to check its progress, you would destroy its growth. So too with your assumption. It must be allowed to root itself in the subconscious without constant disturbance. Your role is to water it with the feelings of the wish fulfilled, to nourish it with inner conversations and mental images that align with your desire, and to trust that the unseen is working on your behalf. Every time you refuse to react to the old picture, you weaken its hold on your reality. Every time you choose to see your specific person in love with you, no matter what the outer shows, you strengthen the new image. In time, the old must give way entirely, for the law is that the inner state always precedes the outer expression. There is no force in the universe that can keep the outer from reflecting the inner, once the inner is fixed and sustained. To ignore appearances is not to deny reality. It is to deny the permanence of what is temporary. It is to know that what you see is only a passing scene, and that the scene will shift as you persist in the role you have chosen. The outer is clay, the inner is the sculptor. And when you keep your hand steady, the form you have imagined will inevitably take shape before you. In that moment, you will see that your unwavering faith was not in vain, and that the love you held to in the silence of your own mind was always the truest reality of all. The moments before sleep are among the most powerful in shaping the reality you experience. For in this state, the conscious mind loosens its grip, and the subconscious becomes receptive to every impression you place upon it. As you drift into slumber, the mind begins to blur the line between the imagined and the real. The images you hold, the feelings you dwell in, and the conversations you replay in that sacred interval are planted deep in the soil of your inner world, where they grow without interference. This is why the final thoughts and sensations you carry into sleep are so crucial. They become the blueprint your subconscious will work on while the body rests. To impress love upon the mind in this state is to open the door for it to appear in your waking life. With your specific person, this means you do not enter sleep thinking of their absence, longing for their attention, or fearing rejection. You enter sleep already embraced by their presence in imagination. You see them beside you, smiling into your eyes with affection that needs no words. You hear the softness of their voice, speaking the language of devotion. You feel their hand in yours, their warmth beside you, their breath mingling with yours. The more real this becomes to you in these moments, the faster it will take form in your waking experience. This is not merely daydreaming in the night. It is the deliberate act of impressing the subconscious with a scene of the wish fulfilled. The subconscious does not question whether it is fact or fantasy. It accepts what you present to it with feeling as true, and then directs your life toward the fulfillment of that truth. The outer events, the timing, and the circumstances will be arranged in ways beyond your conscious planning, for the subconscious operates with a wisdom far greater than logic. You must allow yourself to fully relax into the scene. Many fail in this practice because they remain tense, thinking they must force the image or control every detail. But the power is not in the force, it is in the surrender. As you drift towards sleep, let the scene unfold naturally. It may change slightly each night, but the essence must remain the same. The feeling of already being loved and cherished by your specific person. That feeling is the seed. The details are only the soil in which it grows. If, in the midst of this, a contrary thought appears, perhaps a memory of hurt, a reminder of the current distance, or a doubt about the future, do not fight it in frustration. Instead, gently guide your mind back to the chosen scene. The mind, like a child, will wander, but your role is to keep bringing it back to the home you have built for it. Each time you return to the scene, you strengthen its impression until it becomes the natural resting place of your thoughts. There is a reason this state is so effective. In waking life, the conscious mind acts as a gatekeeper, often rejecting ideas that seem too different from present circumstances. But in the drowsy borderland before sleep, the gatekeeper relaxes, and the subconscious absorbs without judgment. Here, the distance between imagination and reality dissolves, and the scene you play becomes as real to the mind as any memory. The body may be lying in bed, but in consciousness, you are living in the world where your desire is already complete. The key is consistency. A single night of imagining may plant the seed, but seeds require repeated nourishment to grow strong roots. Each night before you sleep, return to the same feeling, the same sense of completion. Over time, this becomes more than a nightly ritual. It becomes a habit of mind. Even in waking moments, you may find yourself slipping naturally into that scene, feeling again the warmth and connection you have impressed so deeply. When this practice is sustained, the outer world begins to respond in ways that can seem uncanny. You may find your specific person reaching out unexpectedly, speaking words you once only heard in your imagination. You may encounter situations that mirror the exact feelings you experienced before sleep. To the unknowing, this may appear as coincidence, but it is the natural outworking of a cause you have set in motion. The cause is the feeling impressed upon the subconscious. The effect is the reality that now mirrors it. Approach this time before sleep as a sacred appointment with the life you desire. Let nothing disturb it, and give it your full attention. For in these moments, you are shaping the unseen, and the unseen is always the master of the scene. When you treat these final minutes of the day with reverence, you will find that they hold the power to reshape your entire waking life. turning longing into possession and distance into closeness, until the love you once only felt in the silence of the night becomes the love you live each day. To shift from wanting your specific person to having them is to cross the only true distance that exists, the distance in consciousness. The desire itself is never the problem. The difficulty arises when you hold that desire in a state of lack. When you think of them as something you must attain, you affirm that they are not yours now. And as long as that inner truth remains, the outer world will mirror it with absence, delay, or partial fulfillment. The transformation comes when you remove the vibration of longing and replace it with the certainty of possession. This change is subtle, yet it alters everything. When you want something, you place it ahead of you in time. It is always in the future, just out of reach. You look toward it, imagining a day when you will have it. But in doing so, you admit that this day is not today. The energy of wanting stretches the fulfillment away from you. But when you shift into having, the entire posture of your being changes. You no longer reach for it. You rest in it. You no longer speak as one who is incomplete, but as one whose desire is a living fact. This is not about forcing yourself to deny what your senses tell you. It is about recognizing that your senses are only reporting the state you previously held. If the outer still shows you distance, indifference, or even rejection, it is only a reflection of an older state. The new state you choose, the state of having, will take its form in the outer world once it is established within you. But it cannot take root if you return to longing every time you look at the circumstances. To truly embody the state of having, you must think, feel, and behave as one who already possesses the love you seek. Inwardly, you converse with your specific person as though the bond is established. Outwardly, you carry yourself with the ease and confidence of one who is loved and secure. You no longer wonder if they will reach out. You simply know that you are already connected, and that this connection will show itself in whatever way is most natural. The feeling of having is the true magnet. Words and images alone will not bring the change unless they are infused with the emotional reality of already being in possession. When you imagine their presence, you must feel the warmth in your chest, the lightness in your spirit, the unshakable calm that comes from knowing there is no separation between you. This feeling is the seed, and the more you dwell in it, the faster it must grow into visible form. The mind will try to tempt you back into wanting, especially if there is no immediate movement in the outer world. It will whisper doubts, point to the current circumstances, and suggest that your efforts are not working. But this is the moment where the shift must be protected. You cannot allow the outer to pull you back into the state that created it. Instead, you return to the inner truth. You have them now. You are living the life you desire now. You rest in the security of that fact until it becomes so familiar that it no longer feels like imagination. It feels like home. In this state, you begin to notice subtle changes in your perception. Where before you may have watched for signs or monitored their behavior closely, now you move through your days without that tension. You no longer feel the urgency to make things happen because you are no longer waiting. You live in the satisfaction of completion, and this satisfaction is what draws the outer events into harmony with your inner world. Some think that this shift requires a massive effort or constant mental discipline, but it is simpler than that. It is a quiet decision made moment by moment to choose the feeling of having over the feeling of wanting. At first, you may need to consciously guide yourself back into that state many times a day. But as you persist, it becomes your natural dwelling place. The thoughts, emotions, and images of lack fade, and the feeling of completion becomes the background of your life. When you live in this state, the bridge between inner and outer shortens. Encounters, messages, and events appear that align perfectly with your assumption. The person you once felt was far away begins to reflect the closeness you have already accepted within. And when the outer fully matches the inner, you will see that the shift from wanting to having was never about changing them. It was about changing you. For the moment you claimed them inwardly, they were yours, and the world simply rose to meet that truth. The union you seek is not a prize to be won, nor is it a puzzle to be solved. It is a reality already alive within you, waiting for your recognition. You have seen that attraction is awakening, that your specific person is shaped by the image you hold of them, that living from the end transforms, longing into possession, that persistence overcomes appearances, that the state before sleep plants the seeds of love, and that the shift from wanting to having closes every gap. All of this rests on one truth: you are the cause. Your inner world is the stage on which every scene of your life is rehearsed before it plays in the outer. The images you accept, the feelings you dwell in, and the assumptions you persist in become the script that others follow without knowing why. There is no circumstance so fixed that it cannot be moved, no distance so great that it cannot dissolve, no silence so deep that it cannot be filled with the words you have longed to hear. When you hold your specific person in the reality of your fulfilled desire, the world must conform. It cannot resist the pull of a state sustained with conviction and feeling. So walk as one who already has, speak as one who is already chosen. Rest each night in the embrace you have claimed, and let the outer world rise to meet the truth you have established within. In time, you will look back and realize there was never a question of if, only a matter of when your inner reality would be revealed. And in that moment, the love you once imagined will stand before you, as natural and inevitable as the sunrise.